Hey, what's happening everybody? Charles Marring here, and today I'm talking about the Lumix lineup of flagship cameras because there was a big firmware update that recently came out, and I want to talk about not only the firmware update, the benefits for the Lumix G9, GH5, GH5s, but I also want to go into how do you physically update these cameras, how do you update the firmware. We're going to get into it, but first let's cut to that intro. So yeah, significant firmware update this week on the Lumix flagship cameras. We're going to get into what it's all about, talk about some of the new features, some of the enhancements. But first, let's dive into how do you physically update a camera at the same time. And so while this is downloading, we'll kind of talk about some of the features. So let's get into the computer. This is the firmware update page. I will put a link below for you guys as well. And basically I need to update my Lumix G9. I've already updated my GH5s and GH5s. So I'm going down to the G9 section, and while this downloads, we'll talk about some of these features. Basically it's taking me to another section to download your firmware. Read all of this, folks. Important information, certainly. But you will definitely need to get it accessed. So follow the link to the global firmware support site. I've done this a few times now, so I kind of have the gist of how it works. And yes, we have to agree, I assume. Read all of this as well, most certainly. Clicking on accepted. And now I'm going to, there it is, DCG9 firmware update on 5/30/18. It's new. Click to download, to go to the download page. More to read here, talks about some of the functions and updates again, clicking download. And while this happens, this will take a couple of minutes, we'll go over some of the features here. So the GH5 really gets the bulk of this update. And one of the things that's improved is the AF performance. Let me read this real quick. Even the good can get better. Update the firmware of your GH5 to increase the tracking AF performance and follow your subject easily while recording movies. Gotta be honest with you, I was unsure how that was gonna unfold, but I actually did a couple of tests on my GH5 with a 25mm 1.7 Lumix lens, 400 ISO at 1.7, 50th of a second, so 180-degree shutter, and I didn't even touch the custom AF functions, and I will say that it was noticeably, dramatically improved AF performance for video. I never really got into doing video autofocus. I've just always manually focused. It's kind of how I grew up doing it. So it was irrelevant to me in some cases, but then I do see opportunities where I would like to have a touch of autofocus when I'm vlogging and things of that nature. So it is a welcomed new improvement. Go check it out. It's worth the download just for that improvement. I want to get into some more tests before I say significantly this is fantastic, but it does look dramatically improved. Worth the download even just to check it out, because it definitely was quite an improvement over the original AF for video that shipped with the GH5. So with that said, what else do we have here? There's a new L monochrome D setting as opposed to just the standard L monochrome, and it has some grain effects. Let's talk about this real quick. New L monochrome D photo style allows for even darker tones and greater contrast, makes a great addition to the many black and white options for Lumix cameras. For the natural analog look, a grain effect can be applied. This grain effect is available in different strengths for all monochrome settings. Again, I did check this out on the back of my GH5, and there is that setting when you go to L monochrome and choose it as a photo style or L monochrome D. There are grain options now available too. Really cool. There's different levels. It looks pretty genuine, and I've seen some imagery taken off of that as well, and it is quite impressive. So I'm excited to dive into that because I love, love, love shooting in black and white. What else do we have? There's a new Live View Boost. With Live View Boost, the viewfinder screen and LC display are displayed brighter than the image recorded so that you can check the composition in low light environments, helping you to comfortably frame your perfect shot. Okay, that's interesting. There is a manual focus assist for accurate manual focusing. Whether you manually focus for stills or moving pictures, you will enjoy the new 20 times magnification of the manual focus assist mode of your GH5. So you can now easily see if the shooting object is in focus. 20 times zoom on manual focus assist. Definitely welcomed feature to be able to just make sure and pinpoint that focus spot, especially with those tight depth of field prime lenses. Really nice to know. So that's a welcome feature. There's a new night mode. With night mode, the camera can display all of the info in red, so neither photographer nor subject is disturbed by bright white light emission. That's kind of a cool thing. And then the Log 709 and Vlog is available for still images as well. So that's kind of cool. If you would like to work in Vlog or record 709, you can now do that for stills. Kind of cool. Now, the GH5 got the bulk of this firmware update. The G9 gets all of most of this as well. Improved AF, monochrome, grain effects, the live view boost, manual focus assist. They also have evidently improved the high resolution mode. A lot of people don't realize that there's a high resolution mode on the G9 where you can shoot 80 megapixel stills of objects that are not moving. And I actually professionally shot using that mode in New York City this week. I'm gonna do a segment on this coming up because it was a really cool commercial shoot. We utilized that 80 megapixel raw file setting and it was just stunning, so much detail. I'll get into that. Evidently, they've made a couple of subtle improvements, which is kind of course, welcome as well, but I don't know what they could have improved because it was so impressive. Now, the GH5s just gets a couple of things, improved AF and the L monochrome D and grain settings. So that's the wrap on that. Now let's get into actually updating our camera. First and foremost, I have to take the card out of the camera. And you absolutely must have a fully charged battery. The camera won't let you update your firmware without it, but it's the same process on the GH5, GH5s, and G9. Pull your SD card out, put it into your computer. We'll kind of come over to the laptop here and I will put it in the computer. I'm gonna navigate now to downloads because that's where I put the file. Downloads, there it is. Let me just give you that computer view, of course. I'm in downloads on my Mac. Double click on that zip file. I'm looking for this .bin file, perfect. Dragging it to the root of my SD card. Gonna take just a second for that to transfer over. There it is, it's in there. Eject the SD card, boom. Now we're going back over to our camera, pull the SD card out of the computer, put it in the camera, close, and now, pretty simply, all I have to do is turn the camera on, and then all I have to do is on the back of the camera, and this is the same for all of the Lumix flagships, hit the play button. And when you hit the play button, it's going to prompt you. And do you want a firmware up? I believe is what it's asking. Start version up. We're going to navigate to yes. We are going to click set. And now do not touch your camera. It warns you not to touch the camera. Don't make any changes to anything. And it takes a little bit of time here for it to just kind of move that firmware over, install it, and get it kind of up and running for you. So this is how you update your firmware. This is all there is to it. This is the new firmware update, some of the cool new features. I'm telling you, this is one of those updates that's well worth doing on all of these cameras. The improved AF performance for video, that's a pretty exciting new feature that is welcomed. Of course, loving the new monochrome features, being able to add grain to our shots if we wish as well. Let's see if this camera's done here. Almost, we're at the very last part of it here. So it'll take a second and we're there. So my G9 is now updated, ready to go. That's literally all there is to updating the firmware on your Lumix flagship cameras. I hope some of you found this helpful. Kind of fun to go through some of the new features with you. And certainly I'm gonna be bringing some new chapters into our tech talks here about utilizing some of these new features and how the improvements are working for me. And that's a wrap on today. I appreciate you, everybody. Have a great one.